Have you ever asked yourself why it is so hard to make a good realistic drawing that looks like what you see? The number one issue isn't actually drawing, it's seeing, because it's not as easy as one thinks. Many painters and draftsmen don't actually have a clear methodical progression when building a drawing or even a painting, which is in a way a drawing made with paint. And they just want to copy what they see, but this is where it gets tricky. Makes it that bad results are inevitable and there is no way to know where things went wrong. Today I'm going to show you the 5 essential stages that transform a drawing from guesswork into mastery, a progression inherited from the classical Atelier tradition. The 5 big stages of drawing: blocking, massing, values, modeling, and rendering. With those in mind, whenever you are facing a drawing problem with a paintbrush or with a pencil, whatever, you'll know exactly how to solve it. To make things clear for you, I'm going to leave a link to a free resource PDF with a recap of the method, all you need to know to get started, and a few models to start practicing. It's absolutely free and the link is in the description box, so check it out. The first stage of a drawing is called the blocking. It's the early part of the work, and the typical problem here is very simple: incorrect proportions, wrong measurements. When a drawing feels wrong, very often it's something we realize near the end, but it's almost never actually something that went wrong in the end. It went wrong in the beginning, and it remained unnoticed up until late in the process. And this is why we have the blocking stage, and it really matters to consider it as its own little moment in the process. We take our time and we focus on going from mark to line. It's all about proportion and placement. Like the foundations of a cathedral, what we're trying to establish here is extremely basic. It doesn't look much like an actual drawing. Looks deceptively geometrical, but it's also absolutely fundamental. What we're trying to figure out is how tall is the subject, how wide is it, where does it sit on the page, where are the main angles, where can we find visual landmarks, how do the shapes relate to each other, this sort of things. We're flattening the subject and we're thinking purely in 2 dimensions, purely in terms of lines and abstracted measurements. And we work at this stage with straight line, which is why we call it the block-in. It's like a big block of marble. Simple angles, clear boundaries, and we avoid curves at all costs. Not because straight lines are more beautiful, but because they are just easier to measure and correct. Curves can always be implemented later, but structure comes first. The blocking stage relies mostly on comparative measurements. That means that we don't just guess the proportions, we try to really nail them and measure as much as we can. We compare the width to the height, we use the plumb line as a reference point, we compare one angle to another, we compare distances between landmarks, and instead of asking, does this look right, we want to know if things are consistent with what has already been established. The blocking is all about building solid foundations that make the rest of the drawing a lot easier. A solid blocking makes for an easy drawing down the line. And the problem that many beginners face is just that they rush this part so much. I can spend hours and the drawing still looks something like this. It's kind of incredible, but it's true. It still looks like a couple marks. And I understand why most beginners want to rush this part and skip ahead, because it doesn't look like drawing, it looks more like geometry, it looks very mechanical, and some might say it looks boring. But the blocking is not made to look beautiful and be attractive, it's meant to be correct. And if you skip this stage, or if you go about it randomly and loosely without double checking your proportions, what you'll do is you'll spend the rest of your drawing correcting mistakes that shouldn't have been there in the first place, and correcting mistakes later on takes a lot more work. So once you move into shading and modeling, the corrections are incredibly difficult to make, and they are also very discouraging. So what we want is we want to take our time now to build solid foundations so that we don't regret it later. And actually the blocking is quite simple. We establish the big proportions. We think big blocks. we place the main landmarks. We use the plumb line as our reference. We check the relationships and we try to make those corrections very early. And if this stage is solid, everything that follows is just much easier. That's why the method begins here, and that's why we can spend so many hours on a drawing that just looks like a couple of marks. Before we move on, if you want to learn more about classical drawing techniques, explore these ideas more in depth and practice with us, you can check out my brand new drawing course, Systematic Drawing Method. It is structured, built on principles inherited from the classical Atelier tradition, so the timeless principles, the same tradition that shaped generations of master artists. If you're interested, you can find a link in the description box. So now let's move along. Let's imagine that you're done with the blocking and you're facing the next typical problem, an empty outline. The drawing at this stage still feels flat, fragile, uncertain. Why? Because lines alone are not enough. And if you try to judge accuracy of the proportions based only on contour lines, you will miss something essential in all drawings and paintings. It's shapes. That's why we do what I call a mass in, which is the second main stage in our process. We go from line to shape, and we need to prepare the transition from a two-dimensional to a three-dimensional drawing. But it won't happen at once. It won't happen immediately. It will happen, but step by step. The mistake to avoid here is jumping into modeling and shading and blending too soon, when the shadow shapes have not been carefully established yet. We still have a lot of things to figure out in terms of proportions. So what we need to do right now is stop thinking in terms of outlines and start thinking in terms of value masses. And to facilitate visualizing masses of values, we simplify everything into two big families. Simple, lights versus shadows. No halftones, no gradient, no shading, no blending, just a clear separation. Whatever receives direct light source is part of the light family. Whatever is in the shadow hidden from the light source is in the shadow family. What we do is we apply a very light, uniform value, a sort of a placeholder value in all the shadow areas. And we press very gently to obtain a veil that is visible but easy to erase in the event of a mistake. We don't want to indicate any statement on the value at this point. The goal here of this light gray is not to represent the values realistically, but simply to oppose light and shadow in two distinct camps. Graying out the areas will just give us a totally new way of seeing, not just in terms of lines, but also in terms of masses of values. An empty drawing made only with contour lines can be very misleading, like an empty envelope. But when you fill in the shadow masses as an even flat tone, the shapes start to finally make sense. Something clicks in the brain. It's a mindset shift. Things start to turn into actual shapes, and it transforms the way you see the drawing. Often this is where the drawing truly starts to feel solid. So the massing is not just about adding a random tone, it's a second verification stage for the proportions. And this time we evaluate, we double check the proportions, but not through lines, but through shape. And this is something that's completely game changing. The key word here is clarity. The separation between light and shadow has to be clean, so we want to apply a very uniform sort of placeholder value with no gradient. When it's done, we check the proportions again, we check the negative shapes, we check the edges. So the massing, this second stage that you don't want to skip either, is transforming line into shape. It strengthens the construction that we established during the blocking so that we can start adding values with minimal struggle. Now it's time to move on to values and shading, and here the most typical problem is very common, and people struggle with values for a very simple and common reason, is they try to identify values as if they were isolated, and they shade areas as if they were independent from everything else. But values don't exist on their own. They only exist in relationship. So the question to ask is not how dark is this, is how dark is this compared to other shadows? Is this plane lighter or darker than the one next to it? Does this highlight belong to the same value family as the one surrounding it? Everything is comparative. So one of the most common value mistake is working on isolated value zones, like trying to use a color picking tool. People like move around, darken one area here, then adjust another one somewhere else, completely unrelated, then another, and gradually the drawing loses harmony because the values were not developed together. So in this stage, we try to work on the whole and we use a strategy called keying. We establish a value key, a range of light to dark that governs the entire drawing. Then we adjust neighboring value zones so that they match each other. A value can be perfectly copied from observation and still be wrong in your drawing if it's not in the right relation with the other ones. If one value is pushed too dark compared to the others, the hierarchy collapses and you lose the realism of the value. So this stage is all about calibration and making sure that everything is coherent. We compare, we adjust, we make sure that the difference of value between area A and B on the model is the same as the value difference between area A and B on our subject. And with that, the drawing slowly starts to feel unified and the values look realistic. So it's getting somewhere, and adding the values really fleshes out the drawing. We're not quite there yet, so we have another stage coming up. This thing is modeling. Now it's finally time to do the thing that people love doing the most, shading and blending and making these gradients, these transitions, glorious transitions that people love doing and that makes the drawing look so impressive. And see how we're doing this, but we're waiting very late in the process. It's 4 out of 5 in our process. And we're trying to start modeling and shading now because we're trying to avoid one of the most typical problems that beginners face, which is overmodeling. Overmodeling is essentially getting lost in the blending process and forgetting about the values. The good thing is that with our method, overmodeling is theoretically impossible because we make sure to fully finish the values before we start blending and modeling. That's the benefit of applying our method, but overmodeling is still a possibility at this point. We can still ruin what we did in the previous stage because of too much blending. Keep in mind that blending can help, of course. A little bit of blending can help, but too much blending can also be detrimental and can, ruin the efforts that we have done before. What happens when we overblend is we destroy the value relationships that we have worked so hard during the value stage. An overmodeled drawing typically looks like something that has exaggerated contrasts, misplaced emphasis, chaotic halftones, and a false sense of aestheticism, an attempt to polish everything too soon just to make things look good, but that somehow looks fake. And that's why we make sure that the value stage really has its own place before blending starts. We only blend on values that have been carefully established and fully fleshed out. And if the value structure is clear, if the relationships are accurate, then modeling simply helps the form turn more convincingly. But if the values are unclear, blending will not fix them. It will only create more problems that will not look realistic and that will look like a fake attempt at making something look good. So really, by separating the stages, first the values, then the modeling, we really prioritize this hierarchy. The values have to be good first, big relationship first, and transitions and gradients and blending second. Structure before softness, method before polishing. Modeling is the controlled transition from one value to another. It's why it matters to have the value shapes clearly established before we start blending and before we start these gradients and these transitions. And when modeling, we don't smear everything into oblivion with a stump. We try to avoid blending with tools like stumps. Not that we never do it, but our main blending tool is the graphic tool, the pencil or the charcoal. Blending with a stump, if used, is minimal and controlled, and it's always followed by a little touch-up with the pencil or the charcoal. When beginning artists overblend, they usually do it out of insecurity, and instead of checking whether the value placement is correct, they try to smooth everything so that we don't recognize everything. For beginners, the softness of the modeling is often used to hide some, value inaccuracies. But if you don't let that happen, and if you process carefully, the form begins to emerge naturally, convincingly, and under control. Now we're near the end of the drawing, and the typical problem at this stage is mostly uncertainty, not knowing when the drawing is finished. Some students stop too early before most errors were fixed, and they call it done because they have no way to evaluate their work or do self-critique. Others do the opposite. They never know when to call it done. They keep adjusting, keep reworking, and the drawing slowly loses freshness. Corrections actually end up making more of a mess than before. So both problems come from the same place, a lack of clarity about the method. That's why we have the final stage, which is rendering, and it's the final stage, the final articulation of what has already been built before. It's the putting the final nail in the coffin, if you want. At this point, the proportions are established, the masses are clear, the value relationships are organized, the forms are modeled, and rendering is where we refine, we finish with the last, the cherry on the top, with the edges, the accents, the subtle shifts, the reflected lights, the texture, unity and harmony. We just do the final things we need to, and we double check everything, and we call it a day. Many students stop before the drawing has been pushed far enough, and I get it, because it's complicated for self-taught artists. And this is why I created the systematic drawing method, my new drawing course, with this self-critique techniques in mind to help beginners self-assess their progression and correct mistakes without help. Confidence in the process is the key to improved drawing skills. When you know the progression, it's very simple. Block in, mass in, values, modeling, rendering. You always know where you are. And if you know where you are, you know what comes next. And when you reach the final stage, you know you're done. You know it because the process lets you know you're done. So if you feel like you struggle with drawing and you need to improve, it's usually because the stages are unclear or collapse into each other in some sort of a chaotic process. The solution is not necessarily more effort or more talent, it's just better structure, a better method. So these 5 stages form a systematic progression, one inherited from the academic tradition, designed to build clarity, control, and ultimately mastery.